Hello and welcome to today's Choice event. I'm super happy to have you today and talk about this really important topic, how to engage suppliers to really implement science-based targets. And yeah, it has been a very exciting journey also this week, which you probably find out when you follow us on social media. And on top now also this amazing webinar today. So I quickly going to introduce you to the program and make sure you know how to get the best benefit out of this 1 hour, having a deep discussion on practical insights and best practices. And then we go already into the webinar. So first of all, what's important for you to know is we are recording the session, so you don't have to be afraid to miss anything. We also normally do very quickly a summary that you find tomorrow or Monday on our climate magazine, so you can also write through the best insights. And then also it's kind of a safe journey for you to join, because I'm also the person here in the camera. You don't have to be afraid to show up, but you can really be active in introducing yourself, learning whom else is joining today, and also ask questions. And for that, you find here the Q&A function. So first of all, I want you to test it and find out where you have it. So everyone who's joining, you have it either on top or in the bottom. It says Q&A or Fragen und Antworten. And you can just drop for now, maybe. Beata already did it. From where you are listening, if you like, you can share your name, maybe the location. And I see, we have Beata already joining, Jay. And Sunny from Bonn, someone is saying. I'm today also here in Düsseldorf, actually. Normally we sit in Berlin. And yes, so you already see where you can ask your questions. So please keep doing that. And we really invite you also to maybe comment on each other or share links that you find important, and store every kind of question here. And we will come to those in the last 15 minutes to have then also a lively discussion. And as the hour is always very quick, we also invite you to join our Slack Team Climate, where you can afterwards join our climate community. We have more than 1,500 people already in there, and we post regular climate news, and are also very interested to hear from your initiatives, your work, or connect with others there. And why are we doing the whole thing? Why are we running our choice webinars and our climate community? We are a climate tech company from Berlin, driving the decarbonization of companies and their supply chains, mainly in software, and by providing the relevant data you need to really measure climate performance and assess suppliers and support them in their decarbonization journey. But we see the world is not that maybe far yet, and climate is not always the main priority. So we really see a strong need to connect each other, to learn from each other, to not build up silos, and also not have this black and white thinking of maybe startups leading the way and corporates not doing so much as they could, but bringing everyone together and also learning from different kind of perspectives. And we very much focus on these events in bringing perspectives of different people leading in their company, or being the ones bringing transformation, or really sharing how their role due to climate changes and which new topics are coming up. So this is what we do in our webinars, but then also in our once in a year summit. It goes into the 4th round this year. We have amazing speakers, amazing partners. It will happen on the 11th and the 12th of May, purely online, as we don't want to increase emissions by everyone traveling. And we really invite you to join and become an active member of our community. And that should be enough for right now for our introduction. And I will have one last question before I introduce you to Cornelia. And that is, before we learn everything about our expert today, we want to learn more about you. So again, you can be a little bit more active. And I'm going to share one first question with you. And that is, from which kind of industry background are you joining today? So maybe for that also the topic going to be differently important, or you have different questions. So do you come from the energy sector, from manufacturing, construction, food, fast-moving consumer goods, retail, transport, finance, information technology, or others? And I see a lot of you are already answering. Sometimes also hard to separate industries. And yeah, I would give you a little bit more time. And then I'm showing it. So I think we have quite a mix, but most people are coming from the information technology area, then from manufacturing, and then food and energy. And yeah, a lot of other areas. So quite diverse as well. That's interesting. And then the second question is, where do you stand with your science-based targets right now? Are you already introducing the topic to your suppliers? Are you engaging them in implementing science-based targets? Are you already advanced in that and just hang in to benchmark a little bit and learn from best practices or challenges? Or are you just starting, or you are not yet there, but you plan to go that step, or it's not planned and you don't know when it's going to happen in your company? Everything is totally fine. And it's also great to have this opportunity to share together, right? Yes, so I'm going to share the result. And yeah, most of you don't engage the suppliers yet, but it is in the planning. And then I think after that, already the ones that have started with 22%, and then yes, already advanced are even also 12%. So I very much invite you also to share your insights later, and probably you have also perspectives to bring in. So from that, I'm going to introduce you to Cornelia, who has been already, with me in the call. So welcome on stage, Cornelia. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me here and giving me the chance to present our work we do on supplier engagement on science-based target. I'm super good because the sun is shining in Berlin and it's amazingly warm outside. I'm very well and I'm looking forward.
Great. Yeah, I think as we already introduced, we always like to have people who have been already in a transformation journey, or maybe bring some experience from the one side or the other. I think you're going to explain us more what you have been working on already, maybe to share. You have been for the last more than 10 years, I think, with Coca Cola and working in the environmental area. So you know how everything developed and what are the current topics. And maybe you just start sharing the slide and we make sure you see everything, and then it builds up. Yes, great. I see it. And I'm gonna listen in, follow the comments. I again invite everyone to bring them in here to have a lively discussion. And then I come back in the end to go really in the Q&A part and share what the audience has been thinking so far.
Okay.
Actually, I have one more thing. I see your this blocker saying Zoom call Bildschirm. You can click it away. Perfect.
Yeah, I saw it as well, but I didn't know whether you see it. So thank you for reminding. Perfect.
Okay, then thanks a lot, and I'm back soon.
Okay, cool. So thank you for participating to this webinar, and I hope I can give you in kind of short introduction on what we are doing as Coca-Cola Europacific partners together with our suppliers to really kind of shape the way towards towards the challenge on 1.5 degree. So maybe you know that Coca-Cola Europacific partner has science-based targets since 2017. This was the first time we kind of send our proposal targets to the science-based initiatives, and we got the validation back that they will meet well below 2 degrees, so not really 1.5 degree, but well below 2 degrees. And we have been working on this. And in 2020, we achieved the grading about achieving 1.5 degree challenge. And now, as 1 year, we are Coca Cola Europacific partners. So we acquired Indonesia, New Zealand, and Australia. And just December last year, we kind of also requested a new science-based target for Europe and for the Australian and Pacific part to have a science-based target together as a holistic group. And we will receive the validation hopefully in June this year. So maybe you will see when you follow our path on net zero as well, that we will post a new science-based target as a complete group. But what I'm talking now on is mainly focusing on Europe, because that's the easiest part. And here we also have since 2020 a science-based target fitting the 1.5 degree. But just to give you a kind of introduction what science-based targets means. So the science-based target initiative is an initiative where experts and different kind of stakeholders, professors, university, providing technical assistance for companies to set science-based target. And with this, you kind of have to have a absolute reduction target. You can't just go with a relative target. So the science-based initiatives really is checking your goals as a corporate towards the 1.5 degree challenge. And then you get an approval whether or not your absolute reduction goals are in line with the climate challenge we are facing outside, to really have ambitions to a 1.5 degree. If you have it not, and you're kind of not meeting the goals, they also give you best practices and support you in what you can do as a next step to really meet this really tough science-based persons. And you really can rely on these experts to support and help you with everything. So we as CCEP, we are engaging with them continuously, because they are supporting us on everything, and we validate together with them everything we post outside in regards to climate change. But to Coca Cola Europacific partners, so we are one of the leading consumer goods company in the world. As you see, we have the whole part in Euro, and we're operating since last year also in Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Australia, and New Zealand, and the small islands, Fiji and Samoa. We have 33,000 employees and 79 bottling plants. So our climate commitment is covering all of our manufacturing sites, including all of our logistics operation, including all the packaging and ingredients we are putting into our products and we sell to the customers, as well as our cold drink equipment. You may, if you go out, you see some Coca Cola fridges in there. So this is also belonging to us, and we are also including in our climate commitment the electricity we consume through cooling our products outside in the world to really refresh our consumers. We have a different structure, so it's a franchise system. Maybe you know, maybe you may know not. I'm working for the bottling partner, meaning we are the persons in charge of filling, selling, the local marketing and the distribution for the products. I'm responsible for the German market, together with John Gelving, our CEO. There is also the Coca-Cola company, which has its headquarters in Atlanta. We also have a licensor in Germany, which is kind of in charge of the overall growth strategy, the brand management, and the product development. So we as Coca Cola Europacific partner are the world leading bottler. We have a carbon goal, as well as the Coca-Cola company. So the Coca-Cola company in Europe do also have their own climate commitment, and they're also joining the path with us. On Germany, just a short overview. We are the largest beverage producer in Germany. We are serving 3.5 billion liters of product in 2022 with roughly around 7,000 employees. We in Germany have 14 production sites, so we are producing very locally the product we are selling, which is also kind of really important because we have a huge refillable business. And as you know, on the refillables, the transportation of the empties is also kind of keen. So we are really proud in the Coca-Cola network to really have this local production sites and really can secure short travel for our refillable bottles. We have a strong sales team, which are outside in there and also working closely with our customers. So one is that we are looking in the upstream, so working with the suppliers in joining our carbon commitment, but we are now starting to engage with also the big customers. Maybe you know it, it's not it's Rewe, it's Edeka, it's Aldi, it's Lidl. So the big ones also have their own corporate sustainability commitments as well as goals. And we are kind of starting now to engage to see how together with our customers, we can even leverage the power we're having in reducing and meeting the path to net zero. What is this all about? So what is Coca-Cola engaging with? It's not only the science-based target group, we also disclose on CDP, right? We were part of the Paris 2015 COP21 group. We are in line, or we are part of the Area 100 group. And in Germany, we just switched our whole vehicles into electrical vehicles. So really also we are investing and supporting the transportation to different kind of fuels, electricity, and also we are piloting different fuels. We're also part of the task force of climate-related financial disclosures. This is also different initiatives and pretty interesting because together with this task force, you kind of can validate the financial risk you have as a corporate towards all the climate-related risks, whether it's flooding, whether it's water scarcity, whether it's climate change and then disruption of your supply chain, whether it's your suppliers or whether it's yourself. So they will, and they support us, and maybe you, if you want to reach out to them as well, support you also in kind of getting the profitability and the climate change together and see and really engage and make corporates move on the right way. We also have a net zero carbon goal, which is certified externally. So we have strong roadmaps on this one as well. And you will see that we also are starting now the path that our manufacturing sites become climate neutral, which is an external certification, a validation where you have to deliver a lot of documents and a lot of steps. But this is really what we try to push. And I think this is essential. What is our path to zero? And this is how it looks when you have a science-based target. So you really have to go on an absolute reduction goal. So it's reducing 30% absolute scope 1, scope 3, and scope 2 and scope 3 emissions by 30% versus 2019. So you can't only go back to whatever decade. You can only go back maximum 5 years in the past and start to build your goal from there for the next 10 years. So we have this commitment outside from 2019 to 2030, where we have an absolute reduction of 30%. And you can see in our past, of course, we did a lot already starting in 2010. And we had this big drop in 2015, where we fully switched to green electricity of all of our manufacturing sites, warehouses, and offices. And now the way working towards net zero or also towards the 30% absolute reduction becomes even more challenging. You can't really reduce everything because at the end you will have a product and you will always have some scope emissions, which we start now to kind of investigate how we can best compensate this. But as you see, reduction becomes first. So we first really need to reduce our emissions overall. The net zero is also validated and certified. And we are joining here, we're following here an ISO norm, and everything we do on here is also very data-driven, very aligned, very focused, very audited. And as you can see, 1.5 degree and really being world leading, you can't do this alone. because when you look where our emissions as the Coca-Cola bottling part comes from, only 6% of our emissions are scope 1. So these are the direct emissions we own and we control. So these are the boilers we are having in our manufacturing site. This is the diesel, which is in our trucks and in our vehicles. We're now starting to move to electricity, but also the heating of our buildings, everything, the bottle washers, we need the energy to wash our bottles. So these are the scope 1 emissions, and we are working to reduce very hard, but this will not help us that much because 93% of all of our emissions are indirect emissions that occur through the value chain. So really regarding upstream and downstream, it's purchases good, whether it's plastic, it's packaging, it's crates, it's the ingredients we are purchasing, as well as, of course, the waste we are producing at our manufacturing sites and everything which comes with that. Also, the capital goods and the transportation from one side to another falls under the scope 3 emissions. And when you see, we also are heavily, so we put the majority of our effort in the reduction of scope 1. So we have here lower than 1% are scope 3 emissions, indirect emissions from generating purchased energy. So here we are kind of come to the end. So we're really looking into scope 1 emissions reduction, but heavily, and that's the important point, is really working with the suppliers end to end to see how we together can reduce the scope 3 emissions. This is just, again, a different kind of things. When you look on the scope 3 emissions, the majority in Germany comes from our packaging materials and from our ingredients. And the third piece is the cold drink equipment, which is the electricity our coolers consume outside at our customer premises. So we really need to engage with our suppliers, our core suppliers. We call them suppliers A, so all the packaging materials that have direct input to our product, as well as the ingredients. So we really need to reach out and work together with them. This is what we do. And how we're doing this, this is time for us to action. So we really need to work closer with our suppliers. And we started in 2018 to see how can we approach our suppliers, because normally it's all about pricing, it's all about capacity, capability, and it's not that much that we already work with our suppliers on really on their emissions. So we said it must be very easy, very direct to kind of ask 3 easy questions, whether or not they can set a science-based target themselves, because when they have a science-based target and they have a bold commitment and they are in line with the 1.5-degree challenge, we as a whole system can support the fight against the climate change. We also are saying, because we saw this was our biggest, first and easiest step to make, is purchase 100% renewable electricity across their operation sites, because then the scope 2 emissions of our suppliers will also be reduced. And then the third piece is, please share with us your carbon footprint data so we can see and really can also validate the suppliers and choose the suppliers with the lowest emission to give them also an extra effort or extra bonus if they have done really good on reducing their emissions. So we are also asking them for supplier specific data. And as I have heard, you're all from the tech industry, or a lot of people are coming in there. This works only if you have the data, if you have the capacity and the capability to set KPIs, to track your performance and to work on this one. So this also needs your support on the technology side, but this is the 3 R's we reached out to our customers. We had once a year big roundtables where we invited them, where we explained to them, and we really put out these 3 easy questions. And when you see what comes back, our 100% of our carbon, scope 3 carbon emissions are mostly supplier related. And when you look on the right-hand side, you can see the percentage on suppliers who already have science-based targets or are committed with us to set science-based target, and only 18% are not covered yet by the science-based target. So with them, we are working pretty close to really engage with them, educate them, and see how we can together share the best practices here. We also have a reduction program. So it's really, and of course we here leverage as being Coca-Cola. We are working together with the Coca-Cola company, the franchisors, and the CEPG. The CEPG is the procurement group, which is kind of overarching to all the Coca-Cola bottlers and all the Coca-Cola franchisors to really see how we as a system can work and work firstly with our suppliers in Europe to get supplier specific emissions. We had a pilot 10 suppliers from our main direct and packaging and ingredients commodities, where we really will use or have used last year the first time their emissions, which was a big data piece, where we also have on our side need the resources and the capacities to embed the emissions supplier by suppliers and not reaching out for industry-wide one. So we really look at and piloted how that could work. And with the 10 suppliers, we already covered 66% of our scope 3 emissions. So you can see we selected the suppliers, we onboarded them, we give them a kind of questionnaires that they had to fulfill, whether or not they have it, what is the barriers for them, so that together with them, we can work towards their barriers. And it is not just that we're asking something, we are also offering. So we're also offering kind of education. So we created together with CDP and with the Science Based Target a kind of a school or kind of training site where the supplier, which are saying, well, I have no clue how to do this and what is the best practice, can jointly come together, debate, guided by us, the best practices, and learn what a science-based target setting is, how they can also leverage best practices underneath themselves to really increase the greenhouse gas reductions. We also explained about emission factors, what are the differences, which are more specific or less specific. There are different kind of approaches you can take. So we educated and we kind of jointly agreed in the emissions factors we're using. And then you can see we are working and identifying hotspots together with our suppliers to really start reducing their emissions and then ultimately ours, so that we as a whole industry can support the 1.5 challenge. And how does that work? That's, for example, the transport tender, right? We really asked if we're tendering something, we are putting out all the transport logistics companies to tender, and we are asking the 3 key objectives, right? And then also they can offer us prices for this one, right? So they also say, okay, if you go by rail or if you go by biofuels, of course that adds more money per kilometers driven for us, but also we have then the emissions reduction on their side. So we really have the data and the transparency to make a meaningful decision. So we really have now the transparency, and we're working together with our transportation suppliers outside to really see what is at the end the best choice from our side and from their side. So really with this one, we also see and set right fuel pricing mechanism, and this you can do with each of the suppliers once you have the transparency, once you agreed and what is the structure and what emissions do you want. You can also have short and midterm solutions, right? You can also support with them, and then you take decisions together, which is the right one for your business. We also have a kind of program together with the Rabobank. I mean, you can read this outside as well. So the supplier with the best carbon footprint can also participate in better paying agreements with that. So there is also some beneficials we are offering on the financial side to our suppliers when they do the extra step towards the 1.5 degree challenge. When they put something really in, then we have this agreement, and then can have with the Rabobank together a better solution for them, for their business, for their P&L. And that's mainly all I wanted to share with you. So it's really time for action. We think that it's over about all these commitments nobody's meeting. It's really about setting out a commitment which is in line with all the science at the moment outside. And when you follow it up, it's changing year by year, and the guidance are really different. So we really need to validate and look how we are together with an external consultant, which for us is the science-based target initiatives, to really work together in the transparency and the data setting. And then, of course, if it's really something you want to change, you can't do it alone. You need to engage with your supplier end to end. And this is what we are now starting also with our customers, to engage and to kind of inspire them to join with us the pathway, so that at the end we can kind of leverage the whole industry. And then, of course, the industry data and the industry emission will ultimately come down within the next 5 to 10 years. So it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It really takes time. It really takes a lot of data points, a lot of boring, stupid Excel work for some persons, but these are really, really well invested times, because once you have the transparency, you really can set meaningful strategies and commitments, and then you can also really prioritize your business decisions against your commitments. So that is all for me. I will stop now sharing, and I'm here for the dialogue. So any questions you're having out there, more than welcome.
Great. Yeah, thanks a lot, Cornelia, for first of all introducing to the topic of science-based targets and really showing also your journey along that longer process already. I think, yeah, as we have seen in the survey before, right, for a lot of people, that is right now the topic, like to really introduce science-based targets, to then start it with your own process, to really get them committed, and then to start with the suppliers. So that is already impressive to see you have been going through that journey. And I think I already have a lot of questions, specifically also which kind of actions you are now taking to reduce emissions. I think that journey you had on the slide is very interesting. But then we have already a lot of questions in the chat, and yeah, that is a time to put even more. And I yeah, gonna look into all of them and try to bring them all in. And maybe before I go directly into the questions from the chat, I think my first one would be, like, as always, kind of, what has been, if you look back, maybe the biggest challenge, like to start that whole process? Because when we look into decarbonization, we often see it's maybe not in the first place what you assume. It could be a lot. So what was the beginning to really decide working with science-based targets, the challenge, and then second step when you go to your suppliers?
Yeah, I think that it still is a challenge really to balance the effort versus the profitability, right? As a big corporate, and I'm not saying something which is hidden, of course, we as a business needs to be profitable. So really to engage with our leadership team, to make it clear that it's the time to act, and that the efforts in the data collection, right? You need to have a really profound data input and really measuring scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions throughout your own whole supply chain, which is, as you have seen it, only in Germany, 24 manufacturing site logistics centers, different kind of emissions, different kind of fuels for forklift trucks, etc. So that effort was the first barrier which you need to pass to really have transparency. And then clearly you need to make it meaningful. And then the financial disclosures helps, because then you had this financial impact on that one. And once you kind of put together the value for the environment and the sustainability, and then the financials behind, then clearly there is a commitment from the top leadership. And that's the same with our suppliers, right? We are having different kind of suppliers, but the majority are also kind of used and trained in making financial decisions in the first step, to really kind of leverage together with them also the discussions about financials towards sustainable financials. So really educating people that sustainability and profitability isn't something which is contradicting. This is something which for the long term is the only way we need to come together. And that's the challenge we are now having with our customers, to kind of shaping this conversation, and the brain you need to put into this kind of conversation. I think that was the biggest challenge. But once you had agreed with the top leadership team, it's a smooth go, right? And then when you see since 2019 how investors and all Others are looking into sustainability and asking our board to kind of, what are your answers on this one? How do you achieve? So once the external pressure is also growing, right? Of course, you as a corporate can't just dig away and say, okay, I don't know. You just really need to go out. And then as a big brand, and I think the majority of people knows Coca-Cola, it needs to be science-based, right? We can't go out because we are the first who are blamed on greenwashing. This is why clearly we needed this science-based initiative who really have this profound external validation on everything we're doing. It's why it really is profound. And this is what we are also supporting our suppliers with, right? That don't do something you think is right, do something where the science is saying it's right, and you get this challenge from externally.
You said a lot of really great points, I think. One is I want to touch on, I think that's what we hear from customers a lot as well, is like this switch that has been happening in the area of sustainability and specifically in climate, that it's not longer your gut feeling, like what you can do or what you should do, even if you have been longer in the space, but that it really starts with baselining, with understanding where you are right now, that you need specific data for it, that this data should be locked or interconnected with the financial data. So like you also mentioned the TCFD, Task Force for Financial Disclosure, to really make sure you are reporting the numbers from the sustainability department that also the financial team and the procurement needs. And I think this increases also so much the power of the sustainability people right now working on it, because it's not longer something that's separated, but has a strategic role for the whole company. And if you bring it together with the financial data, it really accelerates so much of the business model in the end and where you can go in the future. So really interesting to hear that. And also what you said, second point, is that it really starts with the internal transformation to get everyone on C-level on board and make it a priority. And that if you have this one tackled, you can go to the external world and have your suppliers or other partners joining.
Yeah. Yeah, for us, it was also, I think I was in 2018 where I invited our procurement lead, Ralf Peters, into the conversation. And we said, Ralf, we just need you now. And this is why. And then he said, well, can you make it easy? And I said, yes, we have this 3 questions. That's all. Take it and go for it. And then, of course, we had the fortune to really have a person which is super vocal and super powerful. And he's doing a tremendous job in engaging with the suppliers because his heart is on the right piece, right? And that's also, you need to have these kind of people, you need to influence internally to spread, because as said, you can't do it alone. If you're a sustainability expert and you're kind of working against the windmills, it will not work. If you really want to empower, you need to leverage, and then you need to speak the same language.
Yeah, that's also really, really great. You mentioned that. I think we see that as well, like all the sustainability champions, so to say, in the company, they now really partner up with procurement or sometimes also directly with the decision makers on the board to really have like their own champion supporting them and making it even more leverageable what they are doing. And then also, as you said, these 3 questions, for us, it's mostly we have like a screener, like introducing 5 questions for procurement, and then not just having it in Excel, but like really making it streamlined and manageable, and then the whole team can really access it and benefit from it. I see our first discussion has sparked a lot more questions, which is amazing. So now I can start going into that and try to map them a little bit together. And I think I start with a basic one. So could you summarize again, what is the strongest argument to really use science-based targets, even if you're maybe as a company limited in resources? Do you think it will become mandatory also in Germany, Europe? Is it like really an argument? Or here's also asked, is there not an alternative, maybe an ISO? I could assume that's maybe a question coming from a smaller company who would maybe normally have more the role as a supplier. What is your thought?
Yeah, so my thought is, when you look on the European legislation change on ESG, right, on the kind of how you report your data when you go externally, that for me is the biggest argument, because when you really read what is in there and what will come next year, then you have to have it science proved. So you need to fulfill any kind of regulation which is fitting the regulation in. I mean, that's mainly Europe, right? It just fits for the European reporting, but there you have to be. And that would be my argument, to join up with the supplier or with a kind of validator of your data, whether it's the task force or an ISO. It can also be an ISO, but I mean, the data is the same. And then you need to leverage what are your key stakeholders, which is the market you're operating in. With us being a global one, of course, it needs to be a global reputation. When you go out to America, ISO is not that well known. So it depends on what kind of corporate you're working or company to really, it must fit your stakeholders so that your stakeholders, investment, shareholders, whoever, customers, suppliers, can understand why you're joining up with them. So for us, it was the big one, of course, which profound knowledge on this one. But clearly, if you have a locally operating, maybe Germany, not that big, clearly the ISO it's a good choice.
Yeah, maybe also an add-on. There's also a commitment letter now for small and medium-sized companies. So that could be in pathway. So there is support specifically for smaller ones. And also, I think what you mentioned here, like I think the most important is to really think of it's more than just measuring CO2. It means I need a strategy, I need a commitment, I need a decarbonization path, a transition path. And that is often what we also have when we communicate with companies, maybe the switch in mindset, that it's not enough to just have done your CO2 emission calculation, but really looking, how can I bring them down? How do I manage the risk? And whoever external party, it can maybe also be a consultant, I assume, in first place, or partner you find to really go in that process and define where do you want to be in 5 to 10 years and how can you lead the way in decreasing emissions. And science-based targets, as you said, is like probably I think also most recommended one.
Yeah, and just share best practice, ask for best practice, ask for help. I mean, clearly nobody can do this alone, and it's a science, and it is really complex and complicated. So just go out and ask and try to onboard as many people as it's handleable. It becomes too big, too many questions, but this is my advice. Really take it wise.
Okay. Good. Then here is also like maybe an add-on question to what we started before. Like, how did your suppliers reacted when you confronted them with science-based targets? What was their argument for or against it? And maybe what happened to the ones that don't have science-based targets yet? So what is maybe the transformation journey also? Where did you start? I think right now you said 18% have no science-based targets. How was it in the beginning? Is there already a process?
Yeah, so I mean, first we had to get it internally all done, and then we set out a kind of round table where we invited all of our suppliers and explained everything very, very easy, without any consequence at the end, but just saying, okay, if you in 2030 want to work with us as a kind of business together, then this is what we ask from you. So we also give you time to transition yourself, right? Even if you haven't yet certified or engaged in this one, it's fine. We are supporting you here with this. So we didn't let them alone and said, do it. It's not of our business. We really said, if you want to work with us as Coca Cola, then we give you the support, we give you the trainings, we give you the kind of roundtables where you can share and act best practices. And within 2025, we will make decisions against this one. So if you don't have an EcoVadis score and you don't have science-based targets, or you are not yet committed to science-based target, you will not be a supplier of choice. We didn't do this just on a date, but we have a continuously dialogue with our suppliers to also make it achievable for them and reachable for them. And I mean, clearly, when you look, we are Coca Cola, we are working also with big suppliers, so big corporates. And for them, it was also a kind of pathway to engage their leadership on this one. But I think that clearly here also the volume is supporting us, of course, right? If you're a small one and asking for a big supplier, we may not get through. And this is why we also need to, as this group, work together, right? And see and push all the suppliers so that they are coming in, and you have this market challenge themselves. So supplier challenging themselves. I don't get a contract with Coca Cola if I'm not doing this one. That's an argument for them as well. So we are joining them. And I think Zero had science-based target from the supplier from the beginning. There were just a few really committed to that. When you look, they also need then their suppliers to commit on science-based target, right? It just doesn't stop with our supplier and then you really need to go the whole chain backwards. And this is why it takes sometimes a little longer. And we're just focusing on the European suppliers, right? We are clearly seeing that if you have something which is coming from worldwide, where the environment isn't that advanced as in Europe, then it even becomes more challenging. So these suppliers have more time. So we really need to go step by step and make it also achievable. And then the piece, of course, they're asking was the financial piece, where we then said, and we launched this, I think it was last year, this financial bonus program with the Rabobank. So we really said, okay, you can, we have better paying terms with us, right? You can get a higher credit, etc. So this was the kind of beneficials we are now giving the smaller suppliers by saying, okay, we agree, it's kind of, and you need to invest in your business, and we are supporting you by better payment terms. So really, and this you can learn only in the dialogue, right? You can't decide it by your own. You need to step and see what is their challenge and how you can support together.
Yeah, if I would reframe that, what I hear is like really you need to have the conversation starting and like a clear guideline. And in your case, that meant, committing to science-based targets, providing time, but then also consequences at one point. And then having also the data to really come in a baselining position to know from where to move. And then a constant collaboration or discussion. And maybe here's also questions you tackled a little bit the benefits already, but which kind of training program? I mean, you also said like they need to engage their suppliers, then they need to become active, they need to do the whole program themselves. Like, did you provide what kind of training is mainly in there, or like best practice sharing? Like, how do you approach that topic?
Yeah, so we open up the science-based group for them as well, right? Kind of translated the super technical stuff for them. So I have it not directly with me, the name of that kind of trainings, but if it's really on an interest, I can send it out later and find out, right? Because this is something the procurement team was working on it one, and this is a kind of joint education with NGOs. So you can have different courses based on what is your experience. So you can have basic courses and then more advanced one, but there's a whole program behind it. I'm sorry, I can't answer this immediately.
Yeah, but
of course, I can send it out later.
Procurement is also part of it. So that's what I really also like to emphasize again. It's like really a collaboration. So it cannot be just done by the sustainability team and asking for numbers and like pressing down things. It needs the communication and the partnership really with the suppliers and going in there. And what we often always have is like from the data you collect and maybe from the surveys you send out or from the baseline information you have, to reshare also what maybe some of the own suppliers are already doing. So to highlight in our own supply chain, the leaders are doing X, Y, Z, and we can support you maybe with that. So to really look what is already there as knowledge, because I think very often you also get surprised and like learn from the others. And then on top provide more information. And maybe an info point could be the exponential roadmap for everyone who's researching on that. They provide a lot of explanatory data or trainings as well, and like upload examples and so on could be maybe a starting point. Great. Yeah, then we have, so you're doing a really good job here. Everyone is sending so many questions. That's amazing. So maybe it comes specifically also more into the kind of climate actions that were pulled out of it. So you already mentioned you are looking into renewable energy, but yeah, what is maybe the things you already did? What are what did you find out? What are the biggest drivers to bring down emissions for you? And what are maybe the things that are planned for the future?
Yeah, so when you look, we're really looking into the pillars. So we are looking into packaging, ingredients, manufacturing side, logistic, and CDO. This is how we are clustering this one. And we are working with all of the different responsibility. And this is how we as a company are structured. This is why we choose this way. So on the manufacturing side, we said, okay, green electricity is mandatory. And now we need to work on getting biofuels, right? Whether it's nitrogen, whether it's electrical boilers. We are piloting somewhere in Belgium at the moment. So going into CHPs, right? So really in the scope 1 emission of our manufacturing side. So the ones we're really looking into this is where we have really bold things we're looking into. The electricity piece was easy, right? Because that's the non-technology, the biofuels, it's difficult. We're also looking into, when you look on the forklift trucks, we go to electrification to this one. Our transportation, we're going into train, right, from trucks on train where possible in Germany and also in the UK. It depends on the infrastructure you're having in the country. We're also working clearly on energy reduction, so we're ISO 50001 certified, so we also have a kind of energy reduction for all of our manufacturing sites. And then we are looking also here on the big buckets, right? And that's electricity, which is now 0, but then gases, then fuels. And that's mainly 90% of our emissions from our manufacturing sites. On the transportation piece, we're looking into train. As said, with Deutsche Bahn Cargo, we have a huge commitment to really leverage line by line, side by side, to have this side by side or side to big warehousing businesses on trains. And we're also piloting e-trucks together with Lidl, one of our big customers, to see how electrical trucks will work for us. And we're also piloting different kind of LPG or different kind of biofuels for our trucks. For our cold drink equipment, so the coolers, the main thing is really getting them more energy efficient. The more, the better, right? I mean, it was the open front door. It was in 1969 where we just reduced all the open front coolers into closed coolers. So really getting a really immense step towards energy efficiency. And we're now starting the conversation with our customers to purchase green electricity, because once you have green electricity, this one will also be fine. And then comes to the supplier part, the ingredients and the packaging. So we're working with our ingredient supplier and our packaging supplier to it's always, don't put it on the market. So for packaging, if you don't need a packaging, don't need a packaging, right? If you have to use a package, reduce it, right? Reducing the weight, lightweighting bottles, cans, shrink films, right? And then put recycled content in. So we also have in our one-way PET, 100% recycled PET in the majority of the pieces. We are looking into refillables and then also reducing the weight of the refillables. And that's it. So it's first, don't use it, then reduce the material you put into everything. And if that's not possible, then make sure it's recycled. And in Germany, we have the deposit system. So 96% of everything is collected. It is coming back. And we have a really great waste system also, that the shrink foils are coming back and we can recycle this one. And this is when you look outside of Germany, we are now really engaging with the external world, whether it's community, politics, to really say, okay, we need a return system somehow to really get the material back. And this is how it's working. And for ingredients, it's difficult because you need ingredients. But then working with the ingredient suppliers for the 3 R's, get green electricity, get science-based target, and we work together on reducing.
Okay, so again, if I would collect that or summarize it, what I hear out the approach of you is also to like first have in calculation and like seeing the different hotspots in the different clusters, and then also segmenting really the suppliers and targeting them with specific requests due to the area in which they are working and the hotspots you already see, but in the end also going through an unified process to really like report on it, to bring up their own science-based targets, and then go into reduction processes to really also transform them and get them committed to your own climate goals, and then track the process and request which kind of actions are happening due to the analysis you have been doing.
And what will come in the future, you never know, but we are investing a lot of money into startups, and so it's CCEP Ventures, you can Google that one. So we're really investing into magnetic coolers, right? Really fancy, partnering with universities to transform the transformation, to support the transformation, because we don't know what in 2040 is there available. So we need now to start and engage with the creative world outside to fund and to sponsor and see how new ideas can help us as well. So that's something which will come. I don't know yet. We are piloting a lot of things. You can read it on the news, different things. We're also having CO2 in the air divided to sugar for our drinks, right? There's something we're working together with the NASA and the university. There are a lot of tiny things, which I don't know whether they will work, but at least we are trying and we are seeing how that could help us in the future.
That would almost always bring me to the last question, but I think I would squeeze in one from the audience still, because I think we started from like, okay, how to start with the science-based targets, what are the challenges, what are the processes, which kind of data you need, and how are the suppliers reacting, and maybe on that end also you started, so to say, your introduction with it always needs to bring a benefit and like also financial value to them. So what do you see is there already, do you split up costs? How can the suppliers also, I assume, annually report on it? Which kind of systems does it need to keep it all running? And do you see a financial benefit for the suppliers in that as well? What are maybe the topics there?
It's a complex question.
Yeah, you can pick a little bit. I
can pick a little bit. So how I remember everything and can answer. So, I mean, first we are looking together with supplier on the right system, right? So, and in the beginning, we just have the questionnaire with the right format so that we have a set of formats, but we are also developing together with our suppliers, well, that's the right format, but that's the right data point, right? So this is something I think that needs to be developed together, right? Because of course you need to ask for a specific format, but then you see, okay, that's working for 90% and then 10% have changes, you need to adapt. So this is something which is, you work on the go. I think you develop on the go, and at least on this one. So the financial value for the suppliers, as said, we're working with the banks together to get them better payment terms if they invest. So they first need to have the science-based goal, and then they need to have the roadmaps. And when we can talk about specific things they need to do and their barriers, then you find together the right solution, whether it's payment terms, whether it's kind of investment, whether it's whatever they need, right? We need to see and start the dialogue. Like, I can't say, of course, there are billions of money and you send it for free. No, that will not be, right? So this will always be a kind of dialogue and see how we both can support each other. And then in the end, if you don't want to join with us, then clearly at a stage, you will not be doing business with us. So full stop. So we are not mandatoring or pushing somebody. We are just saying, this is our culture. This is the way we are working forward. Please join us. We're supporting you whatever we can. But if you don't want to join, fair choice.
So maybe also for smaller companies, because you said that in the beginning, who maybe don't have that power, so to say, in the supply chain, it could be really to bring in a format and agree together. And as you said, like finding out, right, you have this first data set you request, then finding out from the feedback how to use it, aligning on a strategy, how to bring things in, and striving also together. I think for us always what we see is also the biggest argument is that is a market of the future, and it's not only due to one company, it's mainly due to global commitments from any kind of government and market, and whoever is positioning now quick can also be part of it, and otherwise you're really not sustaining in any kind of way. And the customers and stakeholders are really also punishing it more and more. So.
And as everything in sustainability, it's a marathon, right? It's not something which is there and then it's done. It really is. You need to start the conversation. You need to start the transparency. You need to engage. You keep continuously engaging and repeating. This is the only way it works. This consistency.
Great. Then, yeah, we are almost at the end. I think I first remind everyone who wants to get in contact with you, please just reach out, send an email, or find you maybe on LinkedIn and get there. We are happy to connect, to maybe ask more questions. Second, join the Slack community. So we are also trying our best to prepare maybe some links if you have questions or topics that were mentioned to answer these questions. And then, yeah, my last question would be for you, Cornelia. If someone forget everything we have been talking about, it can be complex. Maybe lunchtime was also on the side. What do you want people to remember? What do you wish or want to give as a tip? Or what would you want to give the people to remember from today?
I think the one thing is it's all about consistency and just start acting now and see how it goes. Nobody knows what the future will be, but if you don't start now, you never will reach the end. So we really need to engage together, not alone, as a group, all together, the whole end-to-end supply chain. And then we will see light at the end. And just reach out. Yeah, I'm happy to support.
Thanks. Yeah, then thanks a lot also for sharing your personal story. It's really inspiring to see how you're bringing transformation in such a big company, and one that has a lot to transform, and like not being scared of, as you say, going or running that marathon. And yeah, thanks a lot for joining today and also providing so many insights and openly sharing also your journey. And yeah, happy to see everyone soon. And I would say have a wonderful afternoon from my side.